Campeones. My name is Diego, and this is D Spot, where we talk a lot about Barça, amongst many other things. If you are a culé that is feeling still confused, angry, and whatever negative adjective you want to add to that list, then you've come to the right spot because we are going to delve into the problems of Football Club Barcelona and how to fix it after the dramatic exit in the Champions League at the hands of Liverpool. So stay tuned and let's discuss. Vamos. Well, guys. It's been a long time. It's been an incredibly long time. But after a hiatus of, I'm not exactly sure how long, I think the last video I uploaded was my interview with Graham and Duncan McMath, Graham Hunter, of their formidable Barça documentary, Take the Ball, Pass the Ball. But even before that, it's been a long time that I haven't been on here. And quite honestly, it took me a long time also to come to the conclusion that the best way I can get over this feeling that I have inside of me, still yearning, of anger, disappointment, sadness, disgust, in all honesty, the best way is to just fire up the old D Spot channel and talk to you guys, because these kind of therapy sessions in the past always helped me to lift my spirits and get over it, and also just have a good conversation with you guys about possible solutions. Now, obviously, I had the time to think about a lot of them, as I'm sure you guys have. I see some of you guys already active in the chat, so do make sure you, of course, submit your comments. But what I will say right off the bat is there is no better cure than to have your family, and in my case, a newborn baby girl, to deviate the attention from all of the negativities surrounding this dramatic Barça exit. And I say cure, I should probably say distraction is a more appropriate word, because nothing is really cured, even though 3 days have passed now, obviously, since Barça crashed out in the Champions League. As a lot of you guys will probably know, those that follow me on my various social media channels, on YouTube, or on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. I have a newborn baby girl. Right, you can follow me at This Is D Spot, by the way, on Instagram and Twitter, etc. A newborn baby girl. She was born the 2nd of May. So my wife and I, and of course our 4-year-old son, couldn't be happier. And I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for all of those that have sent over your well wishes. They were very well received. Now, having said that, like I said at the beginning of the video, the big thing on everybody's mind is what is next. What does Barça have to do to go back to European glory, to winning ways, not only result-wise, because it goes without saying that Valverde has been extremely successful when we look at the results in La Liga, in the Copa del Rey. His results have been, uncontestable, undoubtedly, Jesus Christ, starting off good here, undoubtedly formidable, but his style of play has left a lot to desire, and in my opinion as well, that is part of the fundamental problem currently with this Barca side, is that it's completely deviated away from its roots and what made it become a reference on a worldwide scale. Not only reference, but envy for many clubs as well, but also a model to follow for other clubs. In particular, of course, Manchester City, that started with acquiring the likes of Chigi Begiristain, Soriano as well, as a sporting director there. Flies here. Or as you should say, Chiqui Beristain being the sporting director, Soriano and the an important board member there, and of course, eventually Guardiola going there to coach the team. And I'm sorry here for the bad lighting, but that's what you get when you go live. And which, by the way, I've got my baby girl sleeping downstairs, so if she wakes up from her nap, I'm gonna have to cut this off and tend to her baby needs. In any case, a lot of this will not be new. I know that there's a lot of culés online as well, from what I've been seeing on Twitter, for what I've been seeing on other YouTube channels, that will agree that a fundamental problem with this current Barca side is that they've completely forgotten about Cruyffismo, the fundamental philosophy that made Barca what it is today. For a lot of you, though, it seems to they either that you seem to have forgotten or simply not care about this. Really, what when we talk about Barca DNA, that is exactly what we talk about: the philosophy, the idea, the brand of football that Johan Cruyff instilled in Football Club Barcelona when he came here as a manager. Why is it so important, and why do I reiterate time and time again in my chats with Kian Sobani on Churros y Tácticas, and as well on social media, of course? Why do I time and time regurgitate the same thing? Why it is so important? It's very simple, guys. You talk about results. Well, then let's talk about the results that Barca had before Johan Cruyff came to Barca as a manager and after. And already very quickly, when we do that, we see that the titles that Barca won before Johan Cruyff came as a manager, as opposed to when after he was as a manager, we see here 42 trophies in 71 years, 10 leagues, 21 Copas del Rey, etc., to the 42 trophies that Barca won in the 27 years preceding Johan Cruyff's era as a manager. That, of course, was won under Frank Rijkaard, Louis van Gaal as well, Josep Guardiola, Luis Enrique, and now Valverde, Ernesto Valverde. Okay. Boink. 71. So let me just repeat that. Sorry, as I got rid of the image here. 42 trophies in 71 years to 42 trophies in 27 years. That is the legacy of somebody called Johan Cruyff. Now, not only did he base that on the results of winning trophies, but there's a lot of debate going on currently as to, well, Johan Cruyff, his philosophy that the Cruyffism doesn't bring results. Well, I hope that in itself already proves you wrong. But for those who are not convinced by that, let me just bang out a couple of other more stats and busts a few myths, okay? Before Johan Cruyff, Barça had 15 ligas less than Real Madrid. After Johan Cruyff, Barça is now at 7 ligas less than Real Madrid. Before Johan Cruyff, Barça had no idea what it was to win the Champions League. Barça had nil, nothing, zero, zip. After Johan Cruyff, Barça now has 5. Before Johan Cruyff joined the club, Barça had no idea what it was like to win a triplete. Now the club has 2, more than any other club in the world. Before, and this is my personal opinion here, but I think a lot of you guys will agree with me, before Johan Cruyff joined Barça as a manager, Barça was a mediocre club that had won trophies, yes, and had fantastic football players that had played for the club in their history. But after Johan Cruyff, that's when Barça became a worldwide reference for how to manage a club, or at least from a sporting perspective, from the youth team, from the youth levels, all the way up to the A team. They became the admiration and, like I said before, the envy for some cases in a footballing world, in the football world. All that is thanks to Johan Cruyff. And I can continue to go here, but in the interest of time, in the interest of my baby girl sleeping downstairs, who can literally wake up in any minute, I'm going to continue. Looking at the past decade of football, okay, I want to give credit where it is due here, because there's a lot of talk, obviously, about the fact that Madrid now has 4 Champions League trophies in 5 seasons. Madridistas are euphoric, given the fact that Barça crashed out in dramatic fashion of the Champions League, thereby obviously not being able to win another Champions League. Or I say 4 and 5. That should actually not now. It's 4 and 6, obviously. So the years add up. The years are starting to add up. Barça has got, if we look at it total from 2 decades perspective, Barça's got 4 Champions League trophies. Madrid, I think, has 5, maybe 6. I didn't exactly do the count here, do the math, with the difference of 2. Okay. If you look at Real Madrid's history as well, there's been always spurts and flukes of when, I say fluke, I know that it's not going to sound good to a lot of Madridistas, but hear me out here, or I'm going to leave that for another podcast. The manner in which Real Madrid trophies, the Champions League trophies, had been won, to me at least, are inexplicable. As in, never have I really seen Real Madrid outclass and outdominate or outperform their opponent and really dominate and suffocate them from a footballing perspective. I think that is fair to say. I think Aimagaki and Sobani, one of the biggest Madridistas I know at least, agree with me on this. So much so that for the past 2 years he'd been saying, don't worry, Madrid's not going to win the Champions League, etc., etc. So not even him, from in his eyes, in his view, did he see Madrid with real chances for winning the Champions League. Now we can go throughout their history, and I'm going to take more recent history now for this argument, from '97. From when they got the offside goal from Mijatovic to winning the Champions League with Fluke Anelka goals, who had been a non-factor for them through the entire season, etc., etc., etc. From winning a Champions League in the Galactico eras, I say that even though their Liga wins were not as dominant as the Madrid ones, to now obviously going on a spurt of 4 in 6, where they won the Champions League goals in offside positions, red cards being handed to their opponents when, entre comillas, in brackets, Arturo Vidal, that was unfair. Casemiro getting miracle goals. What else do we have? I'm blanking here a little bit, but my point being, I've got here as well, their win against Bayern, of course, which was the sending of Vidal, the offside goals, the handballs that were not called. A lot of controversy surrounding their wins. Now, you can say that the same happened with Barça. I would argue from a different perspective that is true, but we did see a Barça that did win their Champions League always stayed true to a style, a brand of football. Now, does that mean that is the only way to win football? No, that's not what I'm saying here. My point is that Madrid has won their Champions Leagues in a certain way, one that from my perspective, I'm also always talking personally here, from my perspective, is difficult to defend or difficult to explain. When Barça has, I've always felt that it's, from a football perspective, a tactical perspective, has always been thanks to Johan Cruyff's philosophy. From the Champions League to the Ligas to the Copa del Rey, the success of the club has always come down to staying true to their style, staying true to their identity. With the exception of Ernesto Valverde this season. I would even argue that last season, Ernesto Valverde implemented a kind of Johan Cruyff style football from a 4-4-2 perspective that was not to any of our liking. It was very very pragmatic. It was not as offensive, but it was based on keeping possession, controlling the game, and suffocating your opponent by having possession of the ball. Now, it wasn't as offensive and it wasn't as one-touch football as we're grown accustomed to over the Johan Cruyff years, Pep Guardiola, Frank Rijkaard, Luis Enrique years, but it was controlling the game from a possession perspective, as boring as it was. This season, though, we're just seeing that completely being thrown out the window. And that's something that is what worrying me most. Now, unfortunately, I cannot get into deeper things from a board perspective. I know that a lot of fingers are being pointed at Bartomeu, etc. Unfortunately, I cannot. El Kurdo Usman, my big time hater here, he's asking, how's 4-4-2 Cruyff's way? If you listen to me, what I'm saying, my friend, by dominating the ball, dominating possession, and keep having a control over the game. I reiterate here saying that it was pragmatic, it was more boring, etc. But it was easier for me to defend that than what we're seeing this year, which is completely just flat out anti-Cruyff. We're giving up possession. We're giving up any sort of offensive-minded football. We're sitting back. We're playing like a small team, and it's Ahmed. You don't need to tell me that Cruyff football is 4-4-3, please. Anyway, some comments I'm gonna have to let go. To get to the future, okay? Elf Delin skills. To get to the future, it's very simple. What Barça needs to do as a whole is to focus on what made them great. Why am I giving you a history lesson? Is because it's important to take into these things into perspective and keep them in mind to what made this club great in the first place. When we're talking about, Barça needs a new striker. I'm seeing, from midfielders to defenders, etc., board of directors and managers. That's all good and well. Everybody can have their own opinion, but fundamentally, what is important is to keep in mind what made Barça stand out and become a world reference, and that is Johan Cruyff. His philosophy, his vision, the legacy that he left, and the interpretation of it from the likes of Rijkaard, Pep Guardiola, of course, which managed to achieve excellence, in Luis Enrique as well. That was a more, I would say, direct style, and that kind of interpretation of Johan Cruyff's football, but a very valid one at that, and it still implemented the 4-3-3, the one-touch passing, etc., etc. That's fundamentally what, in my opinion, Barça has to do in order to recuperate their identity, their style, their flair, and their success more than anything, both domestically and internationally. Why has it been so difficult for, I think, a lot of culés, and I'll speak for me personally as well, to even go online and eventually to make this video, is because the manner in which this Barça lost was not a Barça side that I even recognized to the minimum. It was a Barça that completely lost their identity, lost faith in their style of football, even though Valverde previously said that he was going to attack, that all he can, he didn't even really care about controlling the game, I think were his pre-match comments, but that his focus was on attack. Well, fundamentally, in my opinion, not controlling the game is already is an important mistake that he said in the post-match or in the pre-match comments. But to then also say that he's going to attack, yet what we saw was completely the contrary. We saw Barça sitting back, trying to basically defend the result that they had in La Ida, in the home match. You cannot defend that. In any case, guys, I'm going to have to cut it here. We are on almost 20 minutes. I'll take a couple of questions, but I heard my baby girl downstairs giving little cries, so I'm going to have to tend to her very quickly. Ahmed saying, still angry. Absolutely, my friend. El Kurdo saying, the only culé that are confused are in Catalonia. I had a chance to throw Bartomeu out. Ahmed saying, Hamza, you are not a true culé. Hamza says, Messi fake leader, duck off from Barça. Hussein. I'm not going to even bother reading the rest of your comments if you're going to come out with stuff like that. Remember how you defended Valverde? I did last season, absolutely. And I explained the reasons why. Saji saying, what's up, Diego? What's good, my friend? Ahmad saying, please, Diego, if you have any news about the sacking of Valverde, please spit it out. There's no news right now. I think what the board of directors are doing is just basically let time pass, trying to cool the nerves and see how things go in the Copa del Rey. It's a tactic that we've seen used before. Will it help? I don't know. I don't know. I to God hope that there are serious changes and that Ten Hag will be brought in as a new manager over the summer. That's my personal hope. Um, I'm gonna have to make this quick, guys. Elfdeling says bring Rijkaard back. Even Tata Martino did better. There's an argument to be made there that he did play more of a Cruyff style football. There is an argument to be made, more than Valverde, that's for sure. El Curdo says Vidal has become a fan favorite. That's the state of the fans. Well, Vidal gets a pass for me too because he was the only player on the day that wanted to win, or that looked like he wanted to win, along with Messi, that is. El Curdo, very active today, saying, let's not make this complicated. Bartomeu resigns and Laporta to come back. Laporta, hands down, the best president in the club's history. No doubt about it. El Curdo, I'm going to agree with you on that. Barça boy saying, yo, what's up, Diego? How's it going? Great to see you, D. Abraham. Let's talk about the future, bro. There's a lot of comments here, a lot of things that I need to address still. The point with, and I will say this as well, my commitment to you guys over the summer will be to obviously do more D spots now that the season is winding down, and so therefore also my workload is less. I will take the time to come to you guys more with these kind of good old D spots for all the haters, of course the lovers as well of D spot, the Barça fans, the Cruyffistas or anti-Cruyffistas, Madridistas. I don't know if you can hear her, but that is my girl crying. I'm gonna have to end it here, guys. Gave you a little history lesson because it's important to keep in mind what made this club great to begin with. Then keeping that in mind, that's the only way that we can progress is remembering the history. So I hope that you guys were not too bored, and thank you as well for already coming out and give us or giving me a whole bunch of comments that unfortunately I cannot address in this instance, but I will address them again. So subscribe, click the notifications so you don't miss out on the future episodes, future vidcasts, video podcasts, whatever they might be. I gotta go. Unfortunately, my baby girl's crying. Thank you. Subscribe, like, share, and let's get D-Spot back up and running. All right? Ciao, campeones.